Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about the big games from this past weekend. Oregon gets I don't want to say dominating, but comfortable win over USC. Oklahoma handles Missouri, if for a lack of a better term. BYU handles Cincinnati, and Pitt kind of puts it on. Georgia Tech in Atlanta knocks them out of the ACC Championship and puts the Panthers at least in the conversation going into that final week of a chaotic ACC that we will get to on Wednesday. I promise you that. But we got to talk about a number of other games that happened this past weekend. A little bit of a whip around too. I got 9 different games here and then just kind of a scoreboard I want to go over real quickly with you guys. But let's go and jump into this, and let's start with whatever that was up there in South Bend. Notre Dame 70. Syracuse 7. This was abusive in a lot of different ways, and Notre Dame was up 21-0 before the offense ever stepped foot on the football field. As crazy as that sounds, that was the case. And it wasn't even like they were trying to put up 70. It wasn't like they went out there and said, we have to put up as many points as possible because the committee is watching. We have to prove a point. There was just open grass everywhere. Syracuse kept insisting on them running all the way down the football field for touchdowns, and they obliged. And Jeremiah Love, that's the best player in the sport. There's a lot of different great players in this sport. There's no doubt about it. That is the best player. I feel very confident saying that. He had 8 carries, 171 yards, and 3 scores in this game. I get it, Syracuse. Those aren't numbers that should exist ever in any reality. So he's absurd. He should be the Heisman winner. He would be mine right now. I get it. The schedule is not incredible. I also get that the Big Ten title game might keep him from winning it. I think that's the best player in the country, at least that is in Heisman contention. I think Caleb Downs is the best player in the country, but that's a totally different conversation, maybe for the offseason when we get closer to the draft. But at the end of the day, Jeremiah Love's had an incredible season. He'd be my Heisman winner. If I was giving it out today, good thing for me, I'm not. So we got plenty of football to be played, plenty of really, really good candidates, but Notre Dame just abuses Syracuse for 4 quarters and then sends them on their way, and now they just got Stanford in between them and a CFP berth. Utah escaped this one. This is probably the weirdest game of the weekend. 51-47, Utah escapes Kansas State. Kansas State's up 12 with about 7 minutes left. And then Teo Johnson returns a 2-point conversion, cuts the game to 10. Utah scores twice in the final 3 minutes, and the game's over. And that was it. Utah totally took over this game late in this one, and that Teo Johnson play might end up being one of the most important, I don't want to say in Utah history, but if they go to the playoff, it's a massive, massive play for that football team moving forward. On the other side, really quickly, Joe Jackson was incredible in this football game. 293 yards rushing for that guy, 3 touchdowns, 472 on the ground for Kansas State in this game. Utah's got a problem with the run game, and they got a Kansas team that is more than happy to keep it on the ground with Jalen Daniels and company. It's going to be tough. But at the end of the day, they win this one, go for 292 on the ground themselves, so there's a lot of ground play on this in this game. They're in a weird spot for the playoff, is Utah, and we'll talk about it more on Wednesday when we get into all of these realities and all of these scenarios. They're sitting at 12. I don't see a comfortable path for them other than abject chaos on both sides of them. I don't think it even has to happen only in front of them. I think it's got to happen behind them a little bit too, because I think a 10-2 Miami would be very ripe to jump them. They might jump them tomorrow, depending on what the rankings look like. It's going to be really weird. They got to handle Kansas for now to finish off the season, but just a weird vibe around a number 12 team in the country that I think is pretty firmly on the outside of the CFP looking in. I don't know what will happen. If they beat Kansas, then everything's up in the air at the end of the day. Maybe they get a little bit of help and make it into the Big 12 championship. I don't know. But at the end of the day, just a really weird spot for Utah to be in going into the final week. For Kansas State, I think making a bowl game after the abject disaster this season was to start is probably a win. So we'll see what happens there. But Utah keeps their CFP hopes alive. I don't know what they look like in a lot of ways. We'll talk about it on Wednesday, but just a really weird spot for the Utes to be in right now. The team right behind them that we just talked about, Miami continues to get the message. They got the message that they need to handle their business, and they kind of need to look pretty good doing it. If they're going to find a way into the CFP, well, winning a game pretty comfortably against Virginia Tech is going to do that. Carson Beck looked incredible in this football game. Malachi Toney is a freak. We all know he was a freak, but at the end of the day, he continues to prove he's one of the very best wide receivers in the country, and he's 18 years old. So we'll see what he does in the rest of his career, but an incredible, incredible football player. Massive trip to Pitt this weekend. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. We'll do a weird schedule that I'll talk about at the end of the show this week. But at the end of the day, they win there. I really don't think you can keep them out. If you're going to put Notre Dame in this thing, which it looks like you are right now, I don't know how you can keep them out. So, frankly, I think if Notre Dame loses to Stanford, it might not be helpful for Miami, as weird as that sounds, because maybe they don't have the inclination then to put a 10-2 Miami in over a 10-2 Utah or a 10-2 Vanderbilt, whoever that may be. Regardless, you got to handle Pitt first, and we'll see what they do there. An incredible game for Miami and one that they badly needed in a big-time moment. A lot of hay to still put in the barn, that's for sure. Vanderbilt took care of business. They definitely got the message as well. They heard a lot of the noise that people were talking, just saying this is a sketchier spot than some people are saying, including myself. And Diego Pavia puts up 6 touchdowns, throws for 484 yards, and makes a very good argument that he should be in New York City at the end of the year, something that we can talk about after conference championships and all of that jazz. But at the end of the day, I think Vanderbilt is in a weird spot. A win this weekend does not guarantee a trip to the CFP the same way it would for other 10-2 SEC teams. It gives them a shot. There's no doubt about that. But they got to go to Knoxville. This is a very, very tough game. They're about to play. Diego Pavia is playing at a ridiculously high level. This team's been a different team on the road. So we'll see what happens in that football game. If they win it and they're 10-2 on the outside looking in, I don't know how mad you can be. I think you've done everything you can. If you're Vanderbilt, you're just in a weird position where there's going to be a lot of 10-2 teams right in that realm. You might just be lost in the shuffle at the end of the day. Texas was able to get a 52-37 win. They handled their business. A little bit of a sketchy first half, but defense kind of locks in for 25 minutes of the second half and kind of handles their business from there. Arch Manning is the story of this football game. Goes for 6 total touchdowns in it. Becomes the first SEC quarterback and the first SEC player since 2014 to catch, throw, and run for a touchdown in a game. An incredible game from the young kid, and he continues to grow as a player. Obviously, it's the Arkansas defense, so there's a lot more openings than there will be next week or this Friday when they face off against A&M, but kid's very talented, and he's starting to kind of come into his own. The offensive line changes have made a big difference for that football team. And now you just got to hope that you play spoiler. I really think you're pretty firmly out of the CFP given what happened this past weekend. But you can ruin a season for one of your rivals and then see where the chips fall on Selection Sunday. Michigan 45, Maryland 20. This is what the Michigan offense looks like when you don't give the ball away. It's that simple. This is a very, very talented group with guys like Andrew Marsh that they have not had at wide receiver in the past. The run game is always going to be comprehensive. That's not a question, no matter who is toting the rock. This time it was the third stringer that just found his way to make big-time plays in this football game. It's a talented group. There's no doubt about that. Let's be honest. Your work just started. Everyone knew after they lost that game to USC, everyone knew you had to win out the rest of the way to put yourself in a position to play an Ohio State team with a shot to go to the CFP. You got that. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. We'll talk about it on Wednesday. It's going to be special. It's a really, really interesting game. It's a game that I would consider to be a closer game going in than last season. And Michigan won last season. So I don't know what's going to happen. We'll break it down. I'll give my pick. I haven't decided which way I want to go yet, but I will give my pick soon enough on this channel. Michigan rolls over Maryland, and now you get to the game. Tennessee did it. Tennessee won a game down in Gainesville for the first time since 2003. They beat Florida 31-11, just totally dominated this team. Florida's just dead. I think they've been dead for a while now, but this is the official nail in the coffin. They get a Florida State team that at least you can keep out of a bowl game this weekend, if that's fun for you Florida fans at the end of the day. But Tennessee, I think you just got one too many times in the SEC. Obviously, if you beat Vanderbilt, you kind of ruin their season, which is plenty fun for you Vol fans, but definitely just one of those years. You go 9-3 in a year where I and many others were very worried about this team coming in. I think you have an incredible program with a great coaching staff, and this is a win that a lot of Tennessee fans were worried they wouldn't get. You were able to get it in pretty comfortable fashion. What a performance from Wisconsin, and what a last month from Wisconsin. They win 2 top 25 games in the last 3 weeks. In between, they played Indiana, so I don't think it was fair to assume they were going to win that one. And they got a big one against Minnesota this weekend. They're not making a bowl game, they're not doing anything special, and they could have easily quit. They didn't. They got a little bit of juice behind Luke Fickell, and they've taken it and run with it. I don't know what it means going forward. We'll see how that develops in 2026, but an incredible job from this Wisconsin team. Illinois got to feel like this one got away from him, this season got away from him. You lose to Indiana, you lose to Ohio State. That's one thing, that's totally fine. You had to win the toss-ups. You lose to Washington, now you get upset here, and that's kind of the world. In a mega conference, you are going to lose some of these games that you do not expect to lose. That's kind of the world we live in now, and Illinois kind of fell victim to it here. And TCU gets a massive upset over Houston, one that they badly needed after a very weird year in a number of ways. Houston probably feels like a special season kind of slipped through their fingers here. They lose a couple of games late after an incredible start, but two upsets put them firmly out of the mix for the Big 12. And at the end of the day, for the TCU team, I think you just got to feel like you never found even ground in this season. You start with an incredible offense and a questionable defense at best. You finish with an offense that continuously turns the football over, but a defense that stands up big in big moments. It's just weird. I don't know what to think about this team moving forward. I don't know what to think about Sonny Dykes and that program moving forward, but you got enough out of this game, that's for sure. And you knock Houston fully out of it, you give yourself a chance to salvage a frustrating season for sure. And then a couple other results from around the country. Arizona State rolls over Colorado 42-17. SMU just rolls Louisville in the first start for Deuce Adams. Incredibly young talent, but tough first game for him. 38-6 for SMU there. Penn State gets a 37-10 win. We'll talk more about Terry Smith in this next segment, but he's really rallied the troops over there, and it looks like the team that we kind of expected to start the season. LSU wins 13-10 over Western Kentucky. That is not a typo. I don't know what to think about that football team. Good news is you probably have a new coach maybe by Saturday, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. Over in the group of five, though, Tulane holds serve, wins 37-13 over Temple, kind of ends that group of five playoff curse that had been going on for the last couple of weeks. JMU escapes 24-20 over Washington State, one that they badly needed to stay in the hunt. Same thing with North Texas, 56-24 over Rice. How these teams are seeded in tomorrow's rankings, hopefully they're all ranked because they all deserve to be ranked. If they're all ranked, how they match up, especially JMU and North Texas, will tell us a lot about what the CFP could be down the stretch. It's going to be really interesting to watch this one unfold, and it's going down to the wire with these teams. But an incredible week of football. Obviously, the SEC taking their week off in a lot of respects. Dampen down the product just a little bit. I won't say it was a terrible weekend because any weekend with football on your TV is a great one. But at the end of the day, not quite as much stuff to talk about as some past weekends. But we got plenty of coaching carousel stuff to talk about. Right after this, we will get into Mike Norvell, Terry Smith, Lane Kiffin, all of the new things that are happening in the coaching realm. We'll talk about it all right after this, so stick with us.